Mr. Transformers 96 here with another end of the year ranking video. This time I'm going to be ranking my top 10 least favorite movies of 2021. So I've also doing a top 10 best or my favorite movies of the year as well. So feel free to check that out. Overall, I did see a lot of movies. I didn't see all the movies, and if a movie looks terrible, I typically don't go to it. So a lot of these movies I thought at the bare minimum had some potential. Some of them I was looking forward to, but in one way or another, these all disappointed me. With my top 10 best movies, I only did movies that had a theatrical run, even if they also had a streaming run right away. I still went with ones that played in the theater at least for a little. With this list, I am not doing that. So the majority of these had a theatrical run. However, there's two movies on this list that were streaming only, but they were so terrible that I really wanted to include them. So I made an exception. I decided just to make that rule, a solid rule for the best list, and I decided to not use it for the worst list because I think that it would be a tragedy not to include them. So let's get started here. Some of these some of these movies, some of them I think will be surprising. There's a couple on here that I know are well regarded. But let's get started with one that nobody's ever heard of, and this is The Electrical Life of Louis Wayne. This is a movie that I wasn't on my radar until it was out, and I wanted to see a movie, looked up some stuff. This one looked like it could be really quirky and fun. Benedict Cumberbatch plays the main character in it, and it's a true story about a man who is known for drawing cats. It sounded fun, and the trailer looked really quirky. The movie itself starts out great and has this quirky, fun vibe, but then it just is a roller coaster. It doesn't have a consistent tone. It's constantly either quirky, fun, or it's super depressing and a major bummer. Like, it really goes up and down. They don't know how to tonally make this movie match. Each scene really feels like it's a different movie. So because of that inconsistency, it really cut the joy of the film. There's some great stuff in it, but overall disappointed. Number 9 is Fast 9 or F9. The newest of the Fast and the Furious films. This one's more of just a personal thing. Like, obviously all of these movies are on here for my personal preference, but I just don't like the Fast and Furious movies, to be honest. I saw this, I was going to see it no matter what, but I saw it in IMAX, because in IMAX they showed a preview for the new Jurassic Park movie, so I saw this the best way you could, and I still did enjoy it. I found it just kind of stupid, and if you're into Fast and Furious, that's great. Nothing, not trying to throw any shade here. I just really don't enjoy the films, and I find it hard to. I find myself cringing constantly in these films. So this is just personally not a movie that I enjoy, but it's more of a personal thing. Because I know that and actually I like this one more than a lot of the other ones that I've seen. I haven't seen them all though. But the next one, number 8, we have Space Jam: A New Legacy. This was a movie I was so looking forward to. I'm a big Space Jam fan from the original. It's a movie from my childhood that I absolutely loved. I was obsessed with it as a kid. Still love it to this day. This one was disappointing. Just being back in the Space Jam world to some degree was nice. However, it just really was a disappointing film. The way that they used the Warner Brothers properties was something that it was kind of fun with the trailers, spotting things and trying to catch those Easter eggs. But when it turned out to the actual film, it really it distracted. I feel like Ready Player One did the same thing, but it was not a distraction. However, this movie was a major distraction. And LeBron James, he seems like a nice guy, but he really doesn't have much acting capabilities. Michael Jordan wasn't great either, but he definitely was better than LeBron. So it's disappointing. Overall, a movie that so looking forward to, but was disappointing. And that's unfortunately the same with the next one here, Venom: Let There Be Carnage. Really disappointed in this one. I like the first Venom movie. I know it's got its distractors here, but I really enjoyed the first Venom movie. And Carnage is my favorite Marvel character, so this should have been a slam dunk. But I found the film super unfocused and unorganized. I thought that the storyline between Venom and Eddie Brock was a bit annoying and kind of a step back for his character. Woody Harrelson as Carnage, I like the idea of it, but there isn't too much time with Woody Harrelson. I wish we got a little bit more with Woody Harrelson. And then the character of Carnage, I thought, was handled poorly. The symbiote is not anything the way that Carnage should be. It got very few things right with him, which was disappointing. And then I found the character of I can't remember her name now, but Carnage's fiance in the film, I thought that her acting was kind of all over the place. She seemed very different every time we saw her. I feel like she didn't have a strong focus on her character, or, I think more likely that this movie had a lot of reshoots and was a really cut together and pieces cut out of it. There's certain scenes where you can tell that somebody's continuing to talk, but they cut away from it. It was really poorly put together, and that's the best way to describe this film, which is unfortunate because I was so looking forward to it. Now, this next one is going to be controversial. So we have A Quiet Place Part 2. I didn't like this movie. I really enjoyed the first Quiet Place. It was a total surprise and something very unique. I felt, and I was looking forward to this one, I felt that this one went nowhere. I really felt like we didn't make any progress. I feel like the end of this film, you're in the exact same, like physically you're in a different location, but just as far as where the characters are in their development, they're all in the same spot as they were when the last one ended. There was no progression of a story here, and again, this is something that I just personally felt. I know a lot of people, the majority of people, really enjoy this movie. I haven't even seen too many people that agree with me here, but I just did not like this movie, and that personal opinion, I feel like they could have done so much more with it, and they had a lot of scenes that, even if they looked cool, it didn't progress the story at all. Next up is a movie no one's heard of, Zola. This is a movie much like my number 10 on this list, where I wasn't on my radar at all. Sometimes if I've seen everything that I'm interested in, I'll go through the movies, just the list of what's playing at the theater I like to go to, and just watch some trailers, and you get some small stuff, and that's exactly what this was. It looked interesting. It has good reviews, or has decent reviews, but the movie itself, almost like Quiet Place, I feel like not much happened. Like, a lot actually happens in this movie, but the characters themselves don't progress, nor are they very likable. And some characters are supposed to not be likable, but your main character is supposed to be likable, sympathetic, and you're supposed to, actually care about them, but I really did not. I felt that this movie really missed actually hooking me in and making me actually care about the characters themselves. I feel like there's a lot of pointless stuff in this movie too, and it's an annoying movie. This is the only movie of the year that I was watching in the theater and just like waiting and wanting it to be over. The person I went with too disliked it as well, so it's not even just me. Next up, The Matrix Resurrections. So this is a movie that's quite recent. I was looking forward to this one. Getting back into the world of The Matrix after so long is something that's quite exciting. And I felt that this movie was very poor. It has some just bizarre choices. It's bizarrely self-referential in a really bad way. There's many scenes that are just about them, like, basically telling us that they don't want to make this movie. And if their heart's not in it, how are we supposed to care about it? And the action, I thought, was pretty standard too. Nothing unique action-wise, just your standard stuff. It has a bit of a Dune problem, not as bad as Dune, but it does have a bit of a problem where it doesn't feel 100% complete. And overall, I thought this was just really poor. And also, they have replacements of some actors from the original, which really feel like replacements. They needed to eat, because the original actors for the two that didn't return are so good and so unique. I think that they needed to change characters in here instead of just doing new actors trying to pretend to be them, because it's their loss is really felt. And this is a movie that could have been really good. I feel like anybody making this film with a little common sense could have really improved the hell out of this thing. I feel like the mistakes in this movie are really obvious, and they're obvious at a script level. And then next up, number 3, House of Gucci. This one had fantastic trailers. It looked really punchy. It looked really quirky. It looked awesome. Very excited for this. Great cast. The movie itself started out, I was actually enjoying this for quite a bit of time. And then it hits a point where the enjoyment starts to go down. And then it hits a point where this movie falls off a cliff. It takes a total left turn towards the middle of the film and starts completely focusing on characters that were not the main characters before, and the result is garbage. It's terrible. And again, this is another thing where, like, just like the Matrix, script level, you should really be able to see these problems. They should be blaring. It's unfortunate because some of the writing's good, the actors, even if they're chewing a little bit of scenery like Jared Leto, it's still enjoyable, and you do have some genuinely good performances in this as well, and a story that's very interesting, but it really falls off a cliff because it has a strong start. So very disappointing overall. Now, if you've noticed, all of these movies have been theatrical, so the 2 that were not theatrical are actually my 1 and 2. And number 2 is Home Sweet Home Alone. This is the Home Alone remake ripoff Disney version. This is a horrid movie. This is obviously made by people that don't enjoy or maybe have never even seen the Home Alone film. It's just awful. You hate the kid throughout the entire movie. Throughout the entire movie, you hate the child. They purposely direct you to disliking this child. And, you know, at the end they're like, no, he's actually not terrible. But the issue is they've spent the entire movie telling you he's terrible. So that's how you feel about him. So it doesn't change the fact that maybe the reason you thought he was terrible isn't true. They've spent the entire movie telling you that he's horrible. And then they made the robbers sympathetic, which under the right circumstances, that can be interesting. But when you like the robbers and you dislike the child, and then you have to watch a third act where the child just beats up the robbers, it's horrible. This is... I've said this on a lot of them. I guess you can see that, it really bothers me when a movie is obviously bad or has issues that are obvious at a script level, because this one certainly does. The whole plot of this version of Home Alone is so bad, and it's bizarre, and it's mind-boggling that it would be made. Like, I understand them making a Home Alone movie, but to make it this way is crazy. Now, my number 1 worst and most hated film of the year is Thunder Force. This is god-awful, and it's unfortunate because it stars some good actresses. Melissa McCarthy, she has her detractors, but I like Melissa McCarthy. I think she's great. And then Octavia Spencer, everyone loves. She's fantastic. And this was just a piece of garbage. It's directed by Melissa McCarthy's husband, which I think is the only way anybody knows him, because I don't think anybody knows his actual name. I certainly don't. But for good reason, because this guy, he has never directed anything decent. If you look at his filmography, it's all Melissa McCarthy movies, but it's all her worst movies. It's all the movies that give her a bad name. So it's crazy, and I understand that, she loves him, but you gotta just set him aside and be like, you can't direct movies anymore. He's just awful. This movie is the most cringy, horrible movie I've ever seen. Like, some of these scenes are just like, wow, am I really watching this? It's terrible. If you haven't seen it, it's not even fun to watch, to make fun of. It's just terrible. It's terrible, and there's no fun, there's no circumstance where watching this movie would be fun. So it's just a piece of garbage. If you haven't seen it, count your blessings and don't watch it. But there you go. That's my list of the worst movies of the year. Starting at the very edge of the movies, the edge of the list, it was a lot of movies that were disappointing, and then it creeped up to the horrible. But yeah, number 1 and 2 are just despicable. So we've got number 1, Thunder Force. Number 2, Home Sweet Home Alone. Number 3, House of Gucci. Number 4, The Matrix Resurrections. Number 5, Zola. Number 6, Quiet Place Part 2. 7, Venom Let There Be Carnage. 8, Space Jam: A New Legacy. 9, F9. Oh, that's funny. I didn't even realize 9 and 9. And 10, The Electrical Life of Louis Wayne. So there you go. That's my list of my top 10 worst slash most disappointing movies of 2021. I know that there's a couple of movies on this list that are actually liked, so I'm sorry, but again, this is just my personal list. And then I do have another video of my best movies of the year if you want something a little bit more optimistic. But there you go. Let me know what you guys think of my choices. I'd love to hear your guys' choices for the worst movies as well. And thanks so much for watching.